First off, I want to say shalom, salam, assalamu alaikum, hotep, black power, whatever's your favorite. The Nine-Nation, Akamjata, and Kamelahi. I've been with Knox and Queens, I'm feeling it in it. Yes, I pray, I believe in the truth and the planting of these seeds. Yeah, yes, I pray, I believe in the impossible things that's unseen. Yeah, yes, I pray, I believe.
Shalom, Kalam. This is UZZIYAHU Ben Yehuda, aka UZZIYAHU HaMelech. And this is the quick edition on parts 1 through 8, 8 sets of scripture for the times of the Gentiles and white supremacy. Let's just get right into it. Let's go. All right, part 1. So this will be Genesis 10, 1 through 5. You guys can read that. You can pause it. It shows you Japheth in Europe, Shem in the so-called Middle East, which is melanated, and Ham, which is in Africa. And you see first, that land was called Canaan. Then it was given over to Israel. And then later on, the Romans called that area Palestine when they was trying to mock and get at the ancient Israelites. So that's why you have Palestine. All right, Japheth. Japheth is the father of the Gentiles. Japheth is the father of the Europeans. Japheth has 3 major groups. Ashkenaz, which you have the Ashkenazi Jews. They call themselves, they proclaim themselves as Ashkenazi Jews, the European Jews. Then you have the son Jawan or Yawan, which is the Greeks. And you have the sons of Yawan, which is Kittim, one of the sons, which is Kittim, which is the Romans. The major of the 3 is Kittim and Romans. The Romans and the future offshoot nations of the Romans is the key to unlock prophecy. All right, part 2. Luke 21, 20 through 24. This is major. It says, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, to know that its laying waste is near, to let those in Yehuda flee to the mountains. So you have Yehuda and Jerusalem. That's very important. And Yehuda, Judea, Judah, Jews, and at this time we're melanated, we're black, we're African, we're Shemitic African, right? We're Afro-Asiatic. And then Jerusalem, that's the landmass, right? They're surrounded by the armies. And then verse 24, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations, right? And Jerusalem shall be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles are filled. So who's leading away Yehuda and Jerusalem captive into all nations? The Gentiles. And who's in Jerusalem being trampled underfoot? They're being trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles is over. The times of the Gentiles is over and fulfilled is when the Messiah returns. So the Messiah has a 2-fold mission. First, to fight the beast, the false prophet, the anti-Messiah, the demons, the devils, the principalities, and also fight the Gentiles who are holding the Israelite, the 12 tribes of Israel that were scattered to all nations, holding them captive and treating them crazy, treating them wrong. So-called FBA. That's what the Messiah job is. And also to so we can receive salvation. So it's a 3-fold situation. Salvation, fight the enemies, the spiritual enemies, and then fight all of the nations who's holding the true children of Israel captive. White supremacy and the whitewashing. Right here, we have evidence, the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD. The Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem and took the BYSA 7-branch menorah, candlestick. These are the nations that's been ruling Jerusalem. These are the Gentiles. These are Japheth. These are the Europeans, Indo-Europeans. The 3 Abrahamic religions, which is really linked to white supremacy, whitewashing, because it's really only 2. Remember, it says it's 1 law to Yehuda and to the Gentiles, right? And even the Messiah says salvation is of Yehuda. That's us. So all of these other nations and all of these other people are actually descendants of Japheth, the Europeans, because the true children of Israel, remember, they're slaves. They're not even there. So those who are occupying and in the land since 70 AD until 2025. Remember, that hasn't been reversed. Israel is still out there. Israel is in the slave trades, the Indian Ocean slave trade, the transatlantic slave holocaust. We have not returned yet. Part 3, Genesis 15:13. And he said to Abram, know for certain that your seed are to be sojourners in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But the nation whom they serve, I'm going to judge, and afterward let them come out with great possessions. That's talking about actually us in America. Abraham is the patriarch of Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, right? All right. And so BYSA FBA, Abraham was called Eber, which means Hebrew. So the descendants of Abraham are Hebrews. Genesis 14:13, Abraham the Hebrew. Abraham descends from Noah's son Shem, hence his descendants are Shemitic. The definition of Hebrew says, 1, a member of the Shemitic peoples inhabiting ancient Palestine and claiming descent from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israelite. 2, a Shemitic language from the Afro-Asiatic family, the language of the ancient Hebrews, now the national language of Israel. The patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I refer to them as Ash, Afro-Asiatic, Shemitic Hebrew, right? So BYSA is Ash. We are also known as Hebrew Israelites. So Abraham, Hebrew descendants will be sojourners in a land not theirs. These Hebrew descendants will serve them or be servants/slaves. They, that nation, will afflict the Hebrews, or the Hebrews will be afflicted for 400 years. The nation that these Hebrew descendants shall serve will be judged, and the Hebrews will come out with great possessions. Bnei Israel, children of Israel, which are the Hebrew descendants of Abraham, has been in the United States from 1619 to 2019. Actually more than that, but that's what they say, which is 400 years. It is now 2025, so it is 406 years and counting. We are continuing to suffer under white supremacy, under whitewashing, and under the times of the Gentiles. Like the Messiah, YAHOSHUA, stated, and we will receive hate from most nations on earth. 1619 to 2019, 400 years. First documented Africans in Virginia arrived here in August 1619 on the White Lion. All right, part 4. This is the big deal. Joel 3, 1 through 8. So, and it says, for look, in those days at that time when I turned back the captivity of Yehuda and Yerushalayim, that hasn't happened yet. He says, and then I shall gather all Gentiles and bring them down to the valley of Yehoshaphat, and I shall enter judgment with them. Therefore, my people, my inheritance, Yisrael, whom they have what? Scattered among the Gentiles. Remember Luke 21? You shall be led away captive to all nations by the Gentiles. And they have divided up my land, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down by the Gentiles until when? Until the times of the Gentiles is over. Joel 3:6, and the people of Yehuda and the people of Yerushalayim you have sold to the sons of Yawan. What is one of the sons of Yawan? One of the sons of Yawan is Kittim, to remove them far from their borders. And it says, and you know, so boom, so we show you these are the offshoot nations of Rome. In 476 AD, that's when Rome fell. You had the offshoot nations is Italy, France, Spain, Portugal, United Kingdom, England, Roman, Britain, Germany, Belgium, Austria, and Greece. And here are the nations that was in the 1619 transatlantic slave trade, transatlantic slave holocaust, right? You have Portugal, Spain, Great Britain, United Kingdom, France, Netherlands, Dutch Republic, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, United States, which is a British colony, later USA, Brandenburg, Prussia, Germany, Brazil, right? We went to Brazil, we went to the Caribbean colonies, Jamaica, Haiti, Cuba, and you have the Arab slave trade. And you also had some Jewish slave owners and ship owners as well. And they participated in the slave trade. Not all, but some did. So all religions was there. Christians, Muslims, Jews, and all the different nations was there as well. No one can say that they was not guilty. Even the Africans was included as well. And here, Joel 5, for you have taken my silver and gold and brought my treasures to your temple. As you can see, they're taking the golden menorah away from Jerusalem. 5. And he said, blessed be Yahweh, the Elohim of Shem, and let Canaan become a servant. But let Elohim enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem. So as you see, Japheth, the Gentiles, the heathens, are dwelling and occupying the lands of Shem. All right. All right. So it says, what was gathered from Genesis 9:27 is the part of the verse, Elohim shall enlarge the path, which I stated that, Jerusalem shall be trodden down by the Gentiles. That's the Europeans, white supremacy, whitewashing, white privilege, white power, white influence. That's all coming to an end. All right. Isaiah 11:10-12. And in that day, there shall be a root of Yeshai or Jesse standing as the banner to the people. Unto him the Gentiles shall seek, and his rest shall be esteemed. And it shall be in that day that YAHWH sets his hands again a second time to recover the remnant of the people who are left from Ashur, from Mitzrayim, Egypt, from Pathros, from Cush, Ethiopia, from Elam, from Shinar, from Hamath, from the islands of the sea. And he shall raise a banner for the nations and gather the outcasts of Israel and assemble the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. You see right here, the different places where Hebrews are at, from Israel all the way over to West Africa to the Americas. And so when you're shipping these people off to the Americas, there's a conglomerate collection of Hebrews. And then you have the 10 tribes of Israel in West Africa, in Africa, that are there too. So you have Yehudah mixing in with B'nai Israel, and then they're being taken away. And it shows you from Israel, some came through Egypt, some went from Yemen to Ethiopia, and then from Egypt to West Africa, to North America, Caribbean, South America, and then some in South Africa, like the Limba. Right? All right. And then 7, 1 Maccabees 3:48, and laid open the book. 1 Maccabees 3:48, and laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images. Do y'all see this whitewashing here? Here's the before, when the biblical characters was black, and here's the after, when they was whitewashed. This is happening everywhere. They're changing the Hebrew name of the Messiah, YAHOSHUA, Joshua, to Greek name, Jesus Christos, Jesus Christ. I mean, remember Kunta Kinte, the Toby, that's what they did to the Messiah. That's what they did. Eliyahu is now Elias. Jeremiah is now Ermias. You know what I'm saying? They're putting all this os into these biblical names and stuff. Even Africans have been plagued by this because they forgot that they used to deal with the Hebrews. So they're kind of taking on these Greek, Orthodox Roman names and things of that nature as well. So we have to be the light to them. All right. And then Deuteronomy 28:58-68. Deuteronomy 28:60, and he shall bring back on you all the diseases of Mitzrayim, of which you was afraid of. You have diabetes. That was 1500 BC back in Kemet. We was in Israel back in 1446 BCE. We are the people today that's dealing with this. So that shows you that connection. And then it shows how we should be left with few men. 722 BC, Assyria. The siege of Lachish, Yehudah. These are Judeans, Jews captive. We're being sold. Deuteronomy 28:64. YAHWH shall scatter you among all peoples. And there you shall serve other mighty ones, wood and stone. And there you shall be sold to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one shall buy you. We shall be brought in ships, Negroes for sale at auction this day at 1 o'clock. All that stuff was going on. Here's the slave ships. So you can say whatever, but that actually did happen to our people, regardless. And then here's the manifest of the slave names, like in Psalm 68:4. It says, by his name, Yah. You have a lot of people on the slave manifest that had Yah. You had hallelujah, means, praise Yah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Zephaniah. And then you'll see some of these names like Ademiah, you know what I'm saying? Akaya. You see the same thing. So that was putting all that in a nutshell, making it quick for you. 15-minute video. May y'all bless you. May y'all keep you. May he shine his face upon you and give you peace. Thank you. Press like, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Comment. Shalom, shalom. And we out.
Yes, I pray, I believe in Yahweh, Elohim, and YAHOSHUA is King. Yes, I pray, 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 I pray 5 times a day, 5 times a day. Yeah.
I'm Afro-Asiatic, yeah. Hebrew Israelite, Shemitic, man, she's Afro-Asiatic. I'm Afro-Asiatic, yeah. Southern, I'm Central, but we still have descent. Yo.